Good morning. It's me again for my daily show, which I'm very quickly regretting doing because I look like morning, but that's okay. Hopefully the sound's a bit better, but we'll just keep going as you keep trying. We'll get there in the end. I need new gear, but I'm soldering through. So be patient with me. So the first question that I've got is actually really interesting, okay? Because I think the answer may surprise you, and also it might disappoint the person who asked it, but it's an interesting question because it comes up a lot, and yeah, I think we need to work through this. Okay, so I have been asked. Let me just get my screenshot up. Okay, I'm no good at this stuff. Still fucking with tech. I'm sitting on a chair that doesn't swivel, so hopefully that stops me from moving around too much, but I can't guarantee that that's going to happen because that's me. I live with pain and all those things, so I do rock and move around a lot. So, okay, so I was asked on Twitter. Interesting. Huge question with a wide range of answers, but I'm just going to give you my perspective, okay? Which is, can men be feminists? And if not, how can we best help the feminist cause? And this is from Rowan McGarry, okay? Sorry, it's very tiny, so I can't read it very well, but Rowan McGarry, thank you for your question. Kicking this off. All right. First up, I'm glad that you have managed to appoint me as the official spokesperson for 50% of the population. It's about fucking time, to be honest, because I always thought that I should be in charge. So thank you for that. So finally, I'm allowed to be the spokesperson. I'm not really, right? The one thing is, before I go into this, which is something that I constantly get frustrated about, is ask a feminist a thing, and you then extrapolate that she is then appointed as the spokesperson for all women, for all people, for all, for all feminists, anyone in the movement, right? There is no one opinion on this, okay? Now, even in terms of feminist theory, there is a lot of work, there's a lot of theory, and there's a lot of different perspectives. A lot of what you might be seeing now is the split between your sort of traditional feminist. I prefer to say classical feminist because second wave sounds like old. It's limited to a period of time, and also third wave feminists, which is that liberal feminism, right? I'm trying to make classical feminism happen because I think that there are some key pillars around that I just realized that I'm talking and covering my face, which is a good thing because I swear so much, so I should censor, right? I should censor myself. All right. ADD meds haven't kicked in, have they? Okay. So, okay. So first up, it's very important to understand that this is my point of view based on what I think, my experience. There's going to be blind spots because that's how it is, right? I'm pretty well versed in theory and I understand the different sides, but at the same time, I'm one person, right? If you're asking me for one opinion about all of feminism and giving men permission to be feminists, that's like having your black friend and justifying racism. I'm not your, yeah. So I love you, Rowan. That's great. But I just wanted to feed back some of the general frustration that I have, which is that men take one feminist point of view and make sure, listen to other people, listen to everybody, make up your own mind. Okay. Now, I know that's, again, I've got my watch on. We get to see how I don't get to the point within 15 minutes again. That's going to be fun, isn't it? But anyway, so, okay. Now, if I do move around in my chair, it's because I have pancreatitis and I get a lot of abdominal pain. So moving forward actually eases the pain. Sitting back makes it worse, and I need to keep sort of reconfiguring the way I sit. So I know it's annoying to watch. So if you don't like it, then it might be better that you listen to the podcast, or, you know, understand the fact that I fucking have pain. All right. So to answer the question, can men be feminists? Right? To quote The Simpsons, the long answer is yes with an if. The short answer is no with a but. Okay? Now, it depends. First up, there's a number of reasons why there might be some difference here. And allow me to... Now, I don't have an absolute view on this because there are multiple views, and I am not absolute about it, because one thing I do acknowledge in history, and I am acutely aware that this video is probably going to run long when I use these examples, but it's actually very interesting, which is I truly believe that the best of us, the best of society, is when men and women are working together as a team to achieve equality and egalitarianism and economic equality, all of those sorts of things, right? I'm in a marriage that is equal, incredibly equal. If anything, I'm probably more the man. I live in a partnership, and our marriage works because we are truly equal. We are moving in the same direction together, and I understand that that's rare. Okay, now, but I'm just saying that and also throughout history. So if you think about some of the great figures in history, I'm going to use Engels as an example, right? He was inspired by his partner. Like, she's got, look at Wikipedia someday, you'll see she's got like that much on Wikipedia, and he's got 7 pages, right? That's the problem. That's where the inequality happens. But on some level, she was actually the inspiration for a lot of Engels' work. She inspired Engels' work that then inspired Marx, that then brought about change, right? Yes, she didn't get the credit. That's a feminist issue. But I truly believe that men and women working together is the best way to do that. Now, the problem is that men have not traditionally been working with us yet. John Stuart Mills is another example. And also think about all of the great thinkers of our time. Nietzsche, right? It's funny to see, actually, if you are interested in feminist history, look at some of the women behind the men in philosophy, because it's actually very interesting. Oh, sorry, I just realized that I've covered my fucking face. Hang on a second. Oh, I'll turn it on to normal chat. We know what the question is. Hang on, let me turn that off. Or I'll just move. How's that sound? Without fucking with my computer. How's that sound? That's better. So in history, you know, Nietzsche was cared for by women. He was sick. You know, he had numerous women, but you know, he was very dependent on his mother, his sister, his you know, his lovers, all of those people. And yes, women were relegated to caring roles, and that is you know, a part of the problem, which is that women haven't had the choice to not be carers. But at the same time, we need to acknowledge their role in history. I actually learned an interesting thing, well, a long time ago, which surprised me, and she's not hyperlinked in Wikipedia, which is very weird. But when Nietzsche died, it was actually his sister that repurposed and edited his work with that neo-Nazi and National Socialist bent, right? That's where you go, whoa, fuck, you know? Nietzsche gets all the blame for the Holocaust, and it was actually his sister that did it. So, you know, women aren't all fucking sunshine and rainbows either. Okay, anyway, that was a side point. My point was that men and women working together is the best thing, okay? Now, this is linked to, can men be feminists? Now, a lot of it comes down to semantics around the words. As I've said in many videos before, it's not necessarily about the belief or the label, but it's about the behavior, okay? I said this before. It's all about the behavior and the intent and, you know, all of those sorts of things. So the answer is, of course you can, okay? But There's a big but, like my big but. It depends on your definition of feminism. So there are discrete schools of thought on this. I don't speak for all of them, but I can, this is a explainer for men. Let's just make this a 101 for men, right? The very fact that some women are uncomfortable with men being involved in the feminist movement should give you a hint, and you should empathize with that. That should be at the forefront of your mind. Asking me for permission to participate in the feminist movement when others aren't comfortable with that or others disagree, I'm not throwing them under the bus and giving you permission. Okay? And this is something that I have to keep explaining to men, and I've explained to Paul before, which is that I've been very good at teaching Paul how to be sort of supportive of feminism, right? So I'm just trying to do this for other men, which is, it's not about whether you support feminism as a movement as such or are in the feminist movement, right? It's about listening to women and not minimizing and ignoring and correcting their point of view on it. Okay, and this is where, I've talked about this before, where critical theory, it's all related, which is that this is the valid grains of critical theory, which is this idea that people have been left out of history. Women have been left out. You've just got to look at Wikipedia to see how much men took the credit for a lot of women's work, like I was talking about before, okay? There's a real problem there. So when we say women have been left out, don't say, I don't see that, or I live every day. For example, I live every day in a business, in tech, right? And I've been at meetings where Paul has been sitting here, I've been sitting here, I was the boss, right? I'm the managing director, I'm the leader of the project. But they ignore me at the expense of Paul, okay? I'm going to hang on just one sec. I'm just going to turn off the Twitter thing because it's annoying me too now. Hang on. Let's just, there we go. Okay, sorry. I'll get better at this stuff. I need to buy gear that's like got buttons and proper sound and all of that sort of stuff because, yeah. Anyway, okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, so, my lived experience, and again, before the fuckwits ruined all of the words, these words had a grain of truth in them, right? These theories, there is a grain of truth. Don't, as I said the other day, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater with this stuff. The perspective and sociology is a valid discipline. It's just been co-opted by idiots. The fact that I live lived experience as a woman, right? It doesn't trump evidence. That's qualitative evidence and quantitative evidence work together to create good research. Okay, there are those dogmatic people that say, well, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. They're fuckwits too, okay? They're absolutists. I am more of the view, because the training that I've got is that you can get information from qualitative data that you can't necessarily get from quantitative, right? So that's where lived experience comes in, okay? It's like the word ally. That was a good word, and now it's fucking ruined. All right, they've ruined all of the words. So I'm using these words not as one of those woke fucks, but in their traditional specific meaning as intended. Okay, so please, if there's one thing that I can actually suggest, and this is a side point for anyone who is critical of feminism, is to not lump us all in the same box, not assume that the woke feminists and liberal feminists and the Spice Girl feminists and pro-sex work feminists are representative necessarily of the entire body of thought, okay? There are people who can be in a hetero marriage, be a partner, but still have a valid, different lived experience that they need to be heard on, right? So, woman in tech, my day involves every meeting. I've had meetings where I was told this was my business, right, that was supporting me, my ex-husband, and 3 children. Oh, it's good to keep your brain busy while you have children. Okay? That was a comment from a client. Didn't stay a client very long. That's ignoring me and talking to my assistant, right? Ignoring me, talking to Paul, who's the tech lead, right? That's something that when they talk about microaggressions, those are actually legitimate experiences. That's how I walk through the world. And racism is very similar. I can't speak to that, but from what I've heard, it's those micro interactions every day that do make you feel less than, okay? Now, when women say that that happens, right? And that includes, you know, misogyny, like the culture of harassment, don't deny that experience, okay? So the answer is, yes, you can be feminist, but feminism is, again, it depends on whether it's you're being part of an ideology in a club, which I would say, well, men shouldn't really be part of that, or whether it's an action and a behavior. And in terms of behavior, there's things that you can do, right? I know that Paul at his job, he makes it very clear in meetings, because he's become aware of this stuff, that when a female speaks to a male executive and then they give him credit for what she said, he makes sure she gets the credit. They are little things that add up over time, okay? That's a feminist act. That's a feminist thing for a man to do, okay? You know, so I just want to make it clear that there's shades of grey here. There is no yes and no, but you need to make sure that you understand that there are women who don't believe men can be feminists, okay? But it really depends on what that means, okay? Whether it's a behaviour, whether it's a belief, okay? So there are feminist things you can do, and this is where I want to talk about woke blokes. Woke blokes can fuck right off, all right? Trudeau is like people like that, and like the woke beards and the people that are clearly it's about the behaviour, right? We know, right? There's this emergence now of men who call themselves feminists who are using it to get laid, or they are using it for cookies, or they are using it to shield themselves from any sort of general accusations around Me Too. Yeah, like this, and also to promote porn, and also this fucking, you know, non-binary bullshit. This is coming from men. This is a male movement, okay? That's not a male feminist. That's a misogynist, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, I've done a list of do's and don'ts, and I know I've wandered off, but the answer is everybody should be mindful of. Again, I'm going to talk about patriarchy in its initial definition. It is a phenomenon. It is not sentient. It is a structure that favors men. It is a structure that favors particularly WASP men. It is a structure that it's a phenomenon. It is not a sentient being that is oppressive. And that's where people misunderstand the idea of oppression. This is structural, okay? This is something where, and that when you talk about radical feminists, radical means to get to the root cause. Patriarchy has a very limited meaning in that sense, which is that the root cause is that all of our systems, the constitution, the laws, they are very much designed around the male default, right? Read Caroline Prieto, this one, Invisible Women, read this. This is a fantastic book, right? Get the audiobook. Listening to her read it is fucking fantastic. But read that book because it will actually make some sense. It's actually very good for male brain people because it's not a feminist book. It's actually very much more around design and how data and the data gap. So that's actually very fascinating. So that's patriarchy. Patriarchy exists because traditionally everything has been designed around men, okay? Now, so the answer to that is you can be a feminist. You're allowed to be a feminist, but that's my opinion. B, you can be a feminist without talking over women and explaining feminism to them. That fucking pisses me off. Like, I've got someone who does that all the time, who explains feminism to me. And it's just like, back the fuck off. You know, that is not, like, you're not part of it that way, okay? You can advocate for us, right, without talking over us. And I think that's where the line is. And the problem is that everything that women have, and once men get in there, men take over. Okay, that's part of the problem with a lot of this trans stuff at the moment, is this idea that people who have been socialized as men, who are male-bodied, while it's not necessarily about sort of one person in a change room with 20 people, it's about the fact that men have a tendency to take over spaces and dominate them because they are the default. So when women need those spaces for themselves in order to be themselves and be safe. Like, a safety argument aside, it's actually just about the reason, and it's also about the fact that men tend to have a history of I'm trying to be pleasant, breaking women's boundaries, okay, and expecting to not have any pushback with that. Okay, so that's that history and legacy there. That's a lot of why it's not about the bathrooms. It's never been about the bathrooms, it's about the space. And it's about the fact that we need something for ourselves. And that's, again, that's one of the radical feminist arguments, and also just the general feminism argument, is that women need something for themselves. Okay, somewhere to organize. So you can be a feminist in terms of your behavior, okay? In terms of being part of the club and part of the ideology and active as a feminist, well, they're a bit, ugh, okay? Trudeau's a fucking... Most of the men who call themselves feminists have a creepy vibe. They're usually pro-porn, usually pro-kink, and they basically like to gaslight. The men on the left are the most misogynistic I've ever met. At least men on the right, they're not, but it's actually very interesting to see that difference. At least there's an honesty about men on the right. There's a slipperiness to men on the left. But you also need to know when to shut the fuck up. And this is my important point, okay? Which is, this is my biggest frustration with men talking about feminism, is that they have a tendency to talk over, and they have a tendency to correct, and they have a tendency to not listen when we speak, especially around the lived experience stuff, right? So if I turn around and say, well, you know, I experience my life differently to you. Oh, no, you don't. It's all equal, right? I heard someone say, oh, Canada's not a patriarchy. Well, it is. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there, okay? And that's really, it's all about empathy and respecting boundaries and respecting your place. If you're, like I said, some of the great gains that women have made in history have been off because men have advocated for us, okay? That's just how it is. Every great political movement has allies, but you're still, in sociological terms, I know everyone, you know, all these men are going to get triggered, but you are still in the oppressor class, and there is no way out of that. Having some empathy around that is a good thing, and understanding. So go in with humility, okay? Don't go in defensive and trying to state your point of view. Go in listening and understand that women also have a different point of view to me. Like treat us, you know what? Don't treat us like a group. Actually, just treat us like fucking individuals and like people. This is my opinion. I'm an individual, and the other women might actually have a different opinion to me because they're individuals and they have different opinions. Okay, so don't treat us like a group. We're not a group think, and that's one of the, you know, like these kinds of questions do frustrate me a little bit because of that. All right, because of that, they just just shut the fuck up. Listen and know when to shut up, and stop talking over people and be willing to learn and empathize. Okay, that's how you can be a good feminist. All right, I'm not saying that you need to roll over and take shit. I'm saying that you need to just learn when to shut the fuck up. I need to learn when to shut the fuck up too, because I've gone for how long? But point is, we're all different, we're all human, we have a different range of perspectives. Feminism is about class analysis. It is not about, don't turn around and say, well, Taya said that I can do this. Ask that woman what she prefers, okay? She might have a different view. And also, don't ask a woman who's not a feminist and doesn't see the need for feminism. That doesn't mean that feminism isn't relevant to a bunch of other women. Because a lot of men tend to use, oh, well, my wife's not a feminist, and my wife thought it was funny, or my wife thought it was okay. Well, your wife doesn't speak for the feminist movement or women any more than I do. Okay? So if I can give any advice to men, that's what I would give. Don't speak for us. Don't speak on behalf of us. You're welcome to be a feminist in terms of your behaviour and support and allyship, but know when to shut the fuck up. Okay? Stop telling feminists that porn is okay because you want to fucking jerk off, okay? Stop gaslighting us. That's the thing that I hate, okay? I've talked before, I'm very prone to gaslighting, and I'm very sensitive to it and hyper aware of it. So don't do those things and you'll be fine. You are most welcome. And I truly believe that men and women working together gets the best outcome, because we do have unique strengths, and we do have, on average, again, I'm saying on average, we do have strengths, and and working together, everybody working together. Why, this is why I hate intersectionality at the moment and this whole woke shit, because it's not focused on us working together. It's focused on the things that keep us apart. And I'm more about what we have in common and what our common goals are, and not ignoring lived experience, but also needing to marry that with some data. Okay, so a little bit pragmatic. So here's my do's. So do listen without judgment. Okay, do support us. Okay, and that doesn't mean rolling over and taking shit. Okay, so liberal feminists want you on your knees, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying be supportive. Okay, let us lead the movement. Okay, sit in the fucking back. And I don't mean that in I'm going to physically force you, or, I'm saying you should feel enough empathy that you would feel uncomfortable sitting front and center. Okay, you can advocate for us without talking over us. As I said before, know when to shut the fuck up. Understand that every woman has a different view on this, and different points of view. There's a whole school of thought that goes back centuries. Learn some history, learn your feminist history, and there's women that don't think that men can ever be feminists, and you need to respect that, because if you're respecting boundaries and you're seeing a woman as an individual, then you should be respecting her and her preference, and shut the fuck up. See the theme? And yeah, it's got a wide range of perspectives. Okay, now don't explain things to us, even if we're wrong about feminism. Shut the fuck up. Okay, ask questions. Okay, don't deny our experiences. All right, and I'm trying very hard to not do that with trans women and women of color, and I'm trying, I'm just going to shut the fuck up for a while. I have an issue when they start bullying, but generally speaking, that's a good principle. Okay, don't be creepy. Okay, we can tell what your motivation is. Don't be creepy. And don't gaslight women into supporting porn and your fetishes and all of that shit. We know what you're doing. Okay, I've been in a relationship where I was gaslit into thinking that I was a prude because I wouldn't do the things that he wanted to do. Okay, and it was abuse. Don't fucking stand for it. Respect boundaries. Respect the school of thought, respect the history, and don't pull out Judith Butler every time, okay? Read more than one thing. Understand your history. Read Germaine Greer's On Rape. Read Greer, she's fucking phenomenal. But listen to, read, not Judith Butler, what's her name? Sheila Jeffries and fucking Betty Friedan, and and Andrea Dworkin, okay? There's different perspectives. Judith Butler doesn't trump those people. There's a school of thought. So read more books by women as well, okay? So read, I swear to God, I'll put a link. Maybe I should put an affiliate link so I make like 3 cents or something, but do get this book, okay? This is a nice entry level. It's not threatening. There's nothing in there. It's just talking about data. So it's nice left brain for you guys. Read books by women, written by women. I'm not talking about romance fiction and shit. I'm saying actually read proper books by women, non-fiction. Okay, how many women have you got in your library right now? I thought so. So yes, that's things you can do. Yes, you can be a feminist. If you shut the fuck up, don't be creepy and don't talk over us. How does that? I wasn't looking at the questions, but these streams are more focused on an issue. So yeah, okay. I also want you to know that mansplaining is a real thing. Even though it's used for everything at the moment, there is quite a narrow definition for that. I do want to do a video that talks specifically about mansplaining, but not all men are mansplainers, but all people who are condescending and men correct in a certain condescending way, that it's got a different approach than that of a woman. Okay, we can, again, women have very, very, very well tuned instincts. Okay, so if I clap back on you, or I've been on the internet long enough to know a mansplainer and spot them from 100 yards, man. Okay, so sometimes I get it wrong, but okay. So I hope this has been useful. I know I went long. I think they're just going to have to be longer. I'd like to think that it was 15 minutes, but yeah, they could be shorter, but I just don't think that I could be fully Taya in a 15-minute thing. But we'll just let them sort of organically try to be as quick as I can, but not, yeah. So anyway, thank you. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. I want to do this. Well, okay, I'm going to address Andrea's question. It's not mansplaining, because that's just condescending. That's accidentally. However, it is about, and this is where the privilege plus power does come in, okay? Prejudice plus power, sorry. It is, yeah. So anyway, there's a chat going on. Should I just keep this going? I feel bad hanging up on everybody, because there's quite a few people here. Well, I've finished. So if you're watching the video in the replay, this is the chat part, okay? So you can keep watching or not, okay? Do 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 do. Okay. Anyway, I want to address mansplaining, okay? Mansplaining is well, I'm a Taya-splain all the time. I have a tendency to be condescending. I am. But it's not mansplaining, okay? Because it is received, it's actually how it's received, okay? Now, again, I hate the fact that these woke fucks have ruined some pretty foundational things with grains of truth in them, okay? They've ruined all the fucking words, okay? Not every critique is mansplaining, but there is a certain energy to it. There is a certain imposition. There is a certain entitlement. It's like having things explained without being asked, having, you know, and you just, there's, for all we talk about the differences between men and women, this is one of those big differences, which is that women generally are highly tuned to a certain wavelength, and because it's just been, it's a survival mechanism for us, right? We need to be able to read a situation and whether it's going to escalate and the mood of it and the whole tone. And for me, as a comms professional, right, and also as someone who's autistic and had to learn this in a mechanical way rather than an intuitive one, there's a specific pattern to the language, to the way they interrupt, to, you know, like mansplaining it's very hard to define, but it's, you know it when you see it. It's one of those things, right? Again, so I think we're done. I can answer any questions, but I'd prefer it if people gave me a question and I focused on answering that single question every day, because obviously if I'm doing this daily, I'm going to need a backlog. All right. Don't try to trip me up either. Give me some fun things. Ask me to be funny as well. Sorry, I'm fiddling with my chin. Ask me to do funny things and agony aunt stuff and all that kind of stuff as well. Internet, right? I'm an internet grandma. I know everything there is to know about it. So ask me whatever you want. Someone asked me a really hard question that's going to take me 2 weeks to fucking get a thought. And I was like, that's not quite what I wanted. I can do those, but it's going to take some time. If there's anything you want to ask me and you want to hear my thoughts on it, hit me up. If you want to support me, visit my website. tayasmith.com.au should take you to where you need. There's a podcast version of this, of course, so you can subscribe to that if you're more inclined to listen on commutes. I apologize if the sound is bad, but I'm slowly working through it. Because I've sort of rolled down my work, I'm broke as fuck, so I'm not buying any more gear. I'm just trying to make do with what I've got for a while until I can get this thing happening. So anyway, thank you for your precious life seconds. I appreciate them. If you want to give me money, go for it. I'm going to stop being embarrassed about that. Okay. The more I get, the more I'm able to focus and these get better. So I love you. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. I don't know what I'm talking about. What am I talking about? I can't remember. Yeah, I've got tweets scheduled that will tell you, but I forgot. Okay, I gotta do work now. Bye.